Glad you guys could join. Dave, thanks for having me. Excited to share some knowledge and, have some good Q&A at the end. Hopefully, I only want to take a little bit to present and then have some dialogue. I think that's where the good value is. So we'll go ahead and jump in. First, I just want to thank Dave. I think it's important to give you a shout out for the work that you're doing as an organization and being valuable to the community. So thank you for what you're doing. And if you guys aren't involved with NCET, please get involved. They're doing great work and driving good education. So shout out there. Etiquette, mute yourself, which Dave already did. Put your questions in the chat if you have them. I'll definitely check those out. Love to chat about anything. And then there is a section at the end for Q&A. I do have some really horrible pictures throughout this, so don't judge me. I promise it's okay. Who am I? I think it's important for you guys to understand who I am and what we do as a company to kind of give you some framing for the conversation. I've been doing business development for 9+ years. As Dave and I were talking, we've known each other for a long time. I've worked with over 400 businesses, from really small companies to very large companies. I've owned a few companies myself. And for the last 2 years, I've been running BBSI in Reno. And anyone who's on this call, whoever gotten together, we're probably going to talk business at some point because that's what I love, hence the topic of today's conversation. BBSI is a company. We are a PEO, professional employer organization. We are publicly traded, but we do everything local. We have over 110 teams across the nation. So we serve our clients in the communities that we do business. And we have over 6,500 clients nationally. And that's where a lot of the insight I'm going to share with you today comes from, is we've done surveys and active conversations with all those clients for the last 90 days, which has created an opportunity to learn about what's working and what's not. And that's some of the information I'm going to share with you. So agenda for today. First, we're going to talk through the 10 lessons learned. There's no order to this. It's just 10 things that I've seen that I think are worth sharing. I'm going to give you a couple of tools. If you've been on any of my previous webinars, it's a lot of the same tools, but it's important stuff that'll let you look at where you're at in business and then move forward. And then, like I said, we'll have some time for Q&A. If you have business questions, if you're stuck, if you want to talk through anything, let's do that. And like I said, feel free to put that in the chat. So with that, let's jump to the first lesson learned. First lesson learned, I think it's critical, and I think we've seen people do this well, is you have to diversify your product and service. There's some great examples of this in our own community, but nationally there's great examples too. If you're not diversified, this might have been one of those scenarios where it was a good reality check because the good was too good. So some good examples: the alcohol company switching to hand sanitizer. There's a couple companies local that did that. That was awesome to see, and a great way to keep their employees moving and also drive some revenue and provide a valuable service. We have a cleaning company that switched to doing deep cleaning. And actually made more money and has been busier the last 90 days than prior. So they really capitalized on it. So getting creative and pivoting. Fitness companies going online and doing at-home training. Great to see that and seeing people go digital. Now they get to open back up, so that's exciting for them, but that might be another revenue stream for them. Restaurants, the pickup and takeout, some were already doing that and it pushed them. I thought the ones that were really creative, we had a couple clients do the at-home meals, where they would give you all the ingredients and then the recipe and you can cook it and kind of do that together. So kind of creating an at-home experience. I thought that was interesting to see. And then a couple of photographers in town doing Q&As and kind of spinning up some online content. So you have to diversify. I put niche and verticals in there. In the marketing world, I had a vertical I went after too, but I think it's critical you diversify. If all of your business was in travel, you probably lost a lot of your business in the last 90 days, and it's going to take you a while to ramp back up. So lesson one, have to diversify. If you haven't looked at your product and really looked at how to scale out, I think now is a great time to do so. Number two, text your friend. We're all on a Zoom webinar, but I think people have realized, and if you're on last week's call, there was some great insight into how to leverage tech, how to go virtual, how to protect that. But I think you're going to see some lasting impact with that as businesses get back to the new normal, or whatever phrase you want to use. I think leveraging digital platforms for collaboration and meetings has expanded people's reach. It's allowed you to be more collaborative. It's allowed FaceTime versus calls, which is good, and ease of access because every platform has the ability to do a web chat now. Fundraising without live events, I think, is fascinating, and you're starting to see that come into impact now, and people are getting super creative. The next is cutting costs. So I think you're going to see people stick with this long term because you can lower your office space. There's some ways you can cut costs here. File storage options. I was just on with the Skylab guys who are on here, and that's something they're specializing in. But you know, it's great to see how businesses are having to get away from maybe the old server environment, old tech, to pivot so that they can be virtual and travel and be remote. And then expanding your labor pool, right? If you don't have the limitation of geography, it allows you to pay different wages, expand your reach, and hire different people. So tech's your friend. I think you're going to see lasting impact with how tech is going to change the way we all work, and it's going to change the way a lot of our clients, vendors, and partners work. Number 3, relationships matter. If I had to choose an order, this is number 1. If you didn't have good relationships with your bank, your CPA, your accountant, your insurance agents, your vendors, suppliers, landlords, and other cost centers, it probably hurt. So huge takeaway, and something I've been trying to push to a lot of our clients and a lot of the people that I talk to, is you have to have deep relationships. You can't just be a number at your bank, especially as you started going through the PPP loan process. The clients that have the deepest relationships and really had their banker on their side got through the process quicker. You know, I'm glad to say that over 90% of our clients have received PPP money, which is awesome. But the ones who received it first had those deep relationships. You should have those. If you start looking at your centers of influence, the vendors you're using, and you don't have good relationships, really start to firm those up now. Have meaningful conversations. Make sure they understand your business and your goals, because that's going to help you project, and it's going to help them understand how to support you as you move forward. Number 4, have a plan. This is basic, but it's amazing how many people got caught with no plan. And it's kind of a bummer to see that. You have to know the what ifs and have the what ifs. So I highly encourage that. You know, some of the questions I put on here, just so you have it, you know, what if your cash flow is impacted for 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months? As soon as this hit, we really took a chance, and we went through all of our cash flow, and we figured out, you know, how is this going to impact us as a business for the next 3 months, 6 months? If it's worst case, if it's best case, how do we adjust and how are we going to adapt? And then we try to do that with our clients too. So you have to have a plan. What if your product line stops selling? So that kind of goes back to, you have to diversify. What if you lose a key employee? Do you have a plan for that? What if one of your key employees doesn't come back? As you guys start opening back up and you start losing staff because maybe they get picked up somewhere else, what if, right? What's that going to do to your business? Regulations, obviously, we've seen the impact that can have on business, and a lot of that was unforeseen and things you can't plan for. But now this has given us some insight into figuring out how we might be able to adjust for regulations. And then competitors, right? There's always people who can come in and take market share, can drive new technology, can do something different. So you have to have a plan. Like I said, it seems basic, but it's a huge hole, because I think we like to plan for the best, not plan for the worst. And I think that this is a great reminder that we have to be able to plan for the worst. We'll talk about the 6-pillar tool later, and that'll help you do this. But again, another lesson that we saw across most of the clients we were talking to. Accounts receivable is critical. Quite a few of my clients got stuck with money in collections that they couldn't get paid. And I can't even say quite a few. I would say the majority got stuck with AR that didn't come in because the businesses started stalling. And if you're on 30, 60, 90-day collection cycles and all of your clients stall out, it's going to create a nightmare of cash flow for you. So I think it's really important you take time to look at what your contracts say, what your agreements say, right? Are there terms in there? How do you enforce payment? We had a contractor, sadly, who was doing work but didn't have a contract. And then he's like, well, they didn't pay. And it's like, okay, well, where's your contract? What do they owe you? When do they owe you? How do they owe you? Oh, there's no contract. Well, then they don't owe you, right? Like you can't enforce it. So you have to take time to look at those agreements. Make sure if you have a CPA and an attorney, make sure they look at those with you. It's critical. Get creative too. Industry set standards for payment, but that doesn't mean that's how you have to do it. Brian will use you as an example in the marketing space, right? A lot of marketing guys for web dev will do like 50 up front, 50 on the back end. Well, why? That's just what the industry does. How come you can't pay for a website up front? So think through how your AR is impacting overall cash flow, and understand that if the market dips, you might be the one sitting there becoming the lender. And that's not the bag you're probably going to want to hold. The other thing is look at some payment options. A lot of companies have had to figure out how to go digital, how to use better merchant processing solutions. And then the other option is financing, right? How, as consumers are coming back, how do you encourage them to spend money if they're hesitant to drive cash flow? So all sorts of conversations we've had in the AR world, but I think it comes down to the collection side. So just wanted to share that because I think it's one of the lessons we've saw again and again. Don't get lost in the chaos. I've done quite a few webinars, and this is the #1 question that comes up is how do I stay focused? Everything's coming at you, so much going on. How do you stay focused on what matters? Do you feel like you're continually putting out fires? Today's environment's going to do that to you. It just is, right? We're all chasing something. So a couple tips in this arena that we've talked to clients about or that I've seen and had people share with me. First is the big 3, little 3. Have 3 big things that you accomplish every day that are moving your business or your agenda forward. But at the other side, make sure that you're knocking off 3 of those annoying tasks that have been on your task list for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks or 6 months. And let's get the bottom of the list cleaned up too, because those things never get done and they just become these things that nag at you. Also, make sure you're delegating. We like to call this dispositioning. So actually taking it and putting it somewhere else. So don't just delegate and manage. Teach your team how to own things and let them run with it so that you can make sure you're living where you should be. If you look at the graph there, that's talking about you have more visibility, right? It's the 30,000-foot view. It's whatever you want to call it. You know, are you doing, are you coaching, mentoring, or are you owning? So, you know, where are you living? Track everything. If you don't have good task management, it's probably going to catch up during the chaos where you're going to get lost trying to figure out what you should be doing. The Where Are You Living we talked about. Recommended book on this subject is called The One Thing. Phenomenal book. If you guys want to read it, it's a pretty quick read. I highly recommend it for people who are stuck in this continual chaos or putting out fires. Really good read for that. I think chapter 2 specifically addresses this one issue, but the overall topic of the book is that. And then kind of another lesson that I tucked into this is you have to take action quick. The clients that I saw get impacted the worst were the ones who were delaying to see the what ifs instead of taking decisive action quick and then backing into whatever the current reality became. And I think that's something that caught a lot of people off guard is, well, we'll see. Well, we'll see. You say that enough times and all of a sudden you might be out of business, right? So you've got to make decisive action quick that is going to protect the business and then start scaling back into what makes sense. I know I'm spewing stuff at you guys, so I hope there's some good content here. #7, control what you can control. I think that the image on this slide says it all, right? Life is what I make happen, right? I think that we're all waiting for reopening, right? What's the governor going to say for phase 1? What's he going to say for phase 2? Is he going to get COVID and not show up? Is he going to give us plans? Like, you can't control any of that, right? So what can you control, right? So a good idea for the reopening is how do you diversify product to continue to stay relevant as the economic environment changing, right? You can control that. The PPP loan process, the interest rate changed a dozen times before they launched it. And the day they launched it, the interest rate changed 3 times. So you're not going to be able to control it. Right now, they're trying to figure out how to do the forgiveness side of it. And there's 112 interpretations in a 14-page document that tells you how you're going to be forgiven. Can you control that, or can you just take the best advice possible and run forward with your business? So ask yourself, what can I control in my environment so that I'm not stuck in the chaos? Highly, highly critical here that you focus on what you can control because that's all you have impact on. #8, communication is critical. As you're adapting and changing, as you're going through struggles, as you're going through the current environment, I think the people who were most successful were the ones who were talking to their clients, team vendors, and peers frequently. On the client side, right, communicate often, let them know what's happening, let them know how you're adapting, let them know how they can be engaged, let them know if they need support, feedback. On the team, make sure you're talking to your team regularly. If you go virtual, that's one of the tips you'll always see is talk to your team all the time because you have to keep that synergy going. You know, move to daily stand-ups, do weekly check-ins, whatever that takes, make sure you're keeping the synergy. Vendors, you have to talk to them regularly. You should be doing this already, but when it's tough, you have to talk to them more frequently. And then peers. If you don't have a mastermind group, a peer network, a power team, whatever words you want to put on it, that are people outside of your business who can bounce ideas off and give you real feedback, you have to have it. You have to have that power team that weekly, especially during the challenging time, you can plug into and get real feedback and kind of benchmark where you're at. I love when that's not in the market too. If you can diversify that outside of the market, that's great because it gives you different perspective on what other states are doing. So John, I'd love to connect with you offline and talk about what things look like in your market, because I think that's valuable. So communicate often, it's critical. Next, go to the source. This again seems basic, but this is one I have to say because I still see people making this mistake. Social media is great to get information. You know, it's an easy way to understand what's happening. But when in doubt, and especially when it deals with your business and your money, go to the source, please. So for PPP loan, it's an SBA product. Let's go to the source, right? Let's go to the source and understand what's included and what's not. For the forgiveness, right? It's great that attorneys and CPAs are putting out all these documents, but make sure that what they're telling you aligns with the bullet points that the SBA has laid out. Because the last thing you want to do is track everything incorrectly when the source tells you, right? Same thing for reopening. What are the phase plans, right? We're all looking at phase 2 now, and what's that mean? And there's, you know, this and that, and your friend's friend says this on phase. Why don't we just go look at exactly what the governor outlined so we understand what that means? Next, safety requirements. Have a lot of construction clients, and they're like, well, what's OSHA doing? All right, well, let's go to OSHA and let's figure it out for your county and your district. So please go to the source. I've seen a lot of clients being misled by people who have really good intentions, but are playing a little bit of the game of telephone. So let's make sure we're referencing the source, we're referencing the real thing, and we're getting in there. So huge tip, and something I've seen people make a lot of mistakes on. Next, leverage the time. I think that, you know, if you're focused on the chaos, you might miss the opportunity. During a down environment, a pivotal environment, and a changing environment, there's a ton of opportunity here to get creative, to renovate your business physically, right? If there's no one in it, it might be a great time to gut it, to give it a facelift, to do the painting that you've never done because you couldn't afford to close for a week. Well, you're forced to be closed, so let's see if we can capitalize on that, right? How do you streamline processes right now, right? How do you consolidate? How do you restructure? How do you partner? Or if you came into this cash heavy and an up business, how do you become acquisitive and start maybe taking out some competition or buying businesses or doing something a little bit different? So let's make sure we're leveraging the time. I think there's a lot of ways that you could do that. And I've had some clients who have picked up multiple businesses during this, and they're hiring, they're growing rapidly, and it's great to see that. So just encourage you guys to leverage the time. And then just giving you a recap, the slides just so you have it, so that when you get the slide deck, you have kind of a recap of the tips. So with that, let me pause. I think there are some chat coming through. And let's see what's in here before we go to the tools. So we got, let's see. Lou, great job, love it. Thanks, Lou, appreciate you. Big time. Perfect. Okay, so just some comments so far. So I don't see any questions tucked in there. So appreciate the feedback, guys. So let's move to some tools. Those are the lessons learned and just sharing some insight from talking to clients. Now I want to give you tools that you can use in your business or that you can teach your clients. So if you're in the B2B market, these are things that you could talk to your clients about. So the first conversation, it's a question I always love to ask the businesses I work with is, at what point will your business break? Typically, the answer is capacity driven, right? I'm going to run out of space or run out of money. So I like to say, can you visualize your business, whether you're a solopreneur, you have tons of employees, doesn't matter where you're at. If you're a salesperson, can you visualize your business at 2x, at 2 times where you're at now, right? So Kyle, I know you're on here doing mortgages, right? Can you visualize 2 times the volume, which you're probably experiencing with all the refis right now? Can you visualize that? Probably, right? At 3 times the volume, though, it probably gets fuzzy for most of you as you start to look at capacity. So that's where I want you to look at 3x, not because I want you to grow 3x, but I want you to look out far enough in the future that it gets blurry. And then I want you to back into where it gets clear, right? Where can you see what that growth looks like? And that's going to start to create insight into what's going to break, right? Is it finances? Is it people? Is it product, right? And then that's where the 6 pillars of business come in, they're on your screen. And that's how we attach this idea of 3X to tangible subjects that we can actually work in. So that's the first question, right? The first tool is, what's 3X? If you scale, when's it going to break and what's going to break? You know, you have to use that tool. Next, we talk about the inflection curves or honesty curves. This is a great exercise. Every client we work with, we go through this every 90 days with them, and I recommend you do the same. The goal here is to figure out, where do you land on the curve? The curve is a little hard to understand the first time around, so I'll explain it to you two ways, but it's a really good tool. The next slide you can actually print out and use. So if you're a 1, that's that euphoric starting moment where it's limitless possibilities, very little challenges, right? 1 is never where you're gonna stay. It's usually where you exist when you start or change something. 2 is the building stage. It's the steady with some challenges. That's the ideal state that we would wanna live in. So if you're telling me your business is perfect, you should be in a 2. That means you're steady growth, you understand your challenges, and you're overcoming them consistently. A 3 is you've plateaued and stalled, which in a down market or challenging market might be the perfect place to be, right? Your whole business might be in a 3 and you're maintaining, which in a down market might be perfect, right? A 4 is something's broken, right? You've ignored your people have fallen apart, it's destroyed, and now you got to go fix it, and the fire is burning and you got to play fireman, right? The other way to look at it is, if you look at the one other side of the screen, it's got the arrows, right? So if you want to just visualize it with growth, that's a way to look at it too. So with this question, I always like to ask you, in your current environment, current business, if you just step back and think about your business, where do you rank yourself? Are you 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? Just write the number down. You can have halves if you want. Where do you think your business is, right? Be like, Devin, I'm a 2. Everything's good, steady growth, some challenges. I'm a 1, man, we just changed everything, or I'm a startup and everything's, you know, pie in the sky, let's go. Or, you know, to be honest, I'm a 3, we're changing a lot, we're having to adapt, right? So get real with yourself, answer the question, where are you at? Are you a 1, 2, 3, 4 for your whole business? And again, if you're in sales, if you look at where you're at, where do you think you're at, right? So that's the first thing. And then here's the fun exercise, is we now take the concept of your whole organization and we apply it to the 6 pillars. Now I want you to answer the question, applying it to all 6 areas of your business. And then I want you to reality check yourself from your original answer. Because if your original answer, you told me you were a 2, but you go through the pillars and all of a sudden you start to see that the majority of these are 3s or 4s, you're lying to yourself, right? So with this, I want you guys to focus on going through it. So people, are your people lined up? Are they what you expect? Do your processes, are they streamlined? Can you get through them? For product, is your product working? Do you need to elevate your product, change your product, diversify? Pipeline, do you have sales? Are you closing sales? Is revenue flowing? Finances, how's your cash flow? Does it look like you have money in the bank? Can you scale? And then structure, is the structure of your business, is there management, sub-management, where are you at? So get honest with yourself. This is the slide you should print out. Do this every 90 days. If you have a business partner, whether your husband and wife, if you have a board of directors, have them go through this exercise independently and then come back and have dialogue. Because what you're going to find is this is non-emotional conversation. This is reality-based conversation that allows you to really have real conversations about this. The last tool I want to teach you guys is the ABC Player tool. Very simple, but it's one you have to use. So A players, when you go on vacation, they're the ones who drive the business forward. You come back, the business looks better. B players are the ones who are your work dogs, right? They come in, they get it done, they grind it out. No problems, no hassle, but they're not moving the business forward. And then your C players are the one, when you go on vacation, so do they. They get back 5 minutes before you, and then they tell you how amazing they are, right? Oh, you should have seen it when you were gone. It was epic, right? That's the C player, right? That's the one that is the squeaky wheel. The other analogy, the buckets on that screen, it's like your business is like pouring water in a bucket. A, B, and C players are holes in the bucket. The A player is going to keep the bucket pretty full. B is going to lose water. C is going to drain more. As you scale your business up, A players can become B players, right? So you got to realize that this is a tool you have to use again every 90 days, because as you grow and challenges hit your business, stuff's going to change. You can also take an A player, make them a C player by putting them in a role that they're not fit for. People always ask on this, can I make a C player an A player? If their character traits align with your business, mission, and values, yes. If their character is off, probably not. So be careful with the ABC players. And with that, I'm done. That was the word vomit, whole bunch of information, and we can open up for questions. And I'll go to the next screen just so you have our contact info, but.
Thanks, Devin. That was awesome. No questions for me, just props. Nice job.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you, man.
That was great. That was a lot of information. I don't think it was word vomit. It was quite intellectual and communicative and wonderful and really good assessment. And it's going to cause me to reassess everything that I'm doing. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for the feedback, Lou. Appreciate you, man.
No, yeah, I appreciate you. That was very valuable.
I think you already said this, but are you going to be sending the slide deck to everybody after this?
Yeah, Dave will send it out tomorrow, the deck and the recording.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's like some definite useful stuff in there that I want to take a look at and just start using. So thanks.
It'll be on our website, and I'll send an email out tomorrow morning. So Devin, when you talk to your clients or prospective clients during this whole COVID-19 thing, what's the #1 problem that they express to you or that you identify maybe after talking to them?
I don't think there is a #1. I think it's so personalized to each business. It's an interesting conversation because in the transportation logistics business, warehousing, everyone in that sector, they're all booming. And the conversation is they need labor and they're growing and they need cash and they need vehicles and they need financing. So it's all growth driven. And then I have a good number of retail and restaurant conversations going right now, and even chiropractors, masseuses, people that we know have been impacted. And it's a lot of the conversation of how do I come out of this and do it safely and smart, yet still drive revenue. So I think people are very concerned with the legal impact, the fines, the way that it could hurt their business because they're already hurting. You know, so we're trying to guide them through best practices and again, kind of get back to those sources and match them up with the best information.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you may have answered everybody's questions.
I stumped the crowd. Uh-oh, Kyle's got his finger up. All right, so question, if a business is struggling during this time, would it be worth it to work on the BC players and pushing them towards an A, or would it be better use the time to look to hire new A players? Really good question, Kyle. Thank you for that. I think that, and it's the ABC player tool is the #1 conversation right now because it's a unique time where a lot of really good talent is available. They've been furloughed, they've been let go, and not because they don't perform, but just because the company they're with can't keep them, right? They're in a cash flow type scenario, or they're just protecting the company, which is fine, right? So now could be the time to pick up some of the best people because they've never been available. I had a call with a rock star networking friend of mine last week. She's available, she's on the market because she got let go. And if you asked her a day before that, she never would look at an opportunity because she was great. Like she was in an industry that made sense, but now she's looking. And not only is she looking, she's looking for anything. She's open to everything because now's the time to change, right? So I think if you have the opportunity to pick up some A players, now's the time. With the B and C players, you have to have good conversation with your team. First, it's always characteristics. So you have to understand your mission, vision, and values for your company and how the people align with them. If they align, yet they're not performing, then we start looking at the role, right? So if they pass the character test, then we look at the role, right? What do they enjoy doing? What don't they enjoy doing? What are they good at? What are they bad at? And can we realign this person to put them in a position where they're doing things they like and things they're good at? And will that elevate them to be an A player? If that exists in the company, let's do it, because it's always better to keep that person who already understands the company. But if they're not and their character is flawed, let's move them out. Let's replace them with some better talent.
Well, thank you guys all very much. Devin, thank you for the excellent presentation. And please, if you're not a member, consider becoming a member. Membership starts at just $50 a year. One of the best bargains in town. Devin, thank you again. We'll send this out tomorrow, and we hope to see all of you in person somewhere soon.